So I want to start this episode off being like just a kind of not update but update. And right now I'm realizing I'm enjoying just talking off the dome instead of trying to over script, just letting like a concept play in my head for a day, 2, 3, whatever. And then when it's like I have to verbally say all of this, like throw it out, like I'm like, okay, you know what, it's time to record. We're gonna focus on this idea of visibility with the building, because I have been struggling with this for a while now, and I just feel like I want to talk about it. I don't necessarily have like, ooh, boom, bang, like this is how I'm gonna solve it. I need to say something about it because it's driving me nuts, and maybe someone might be building and it might be driving them nuts too. So here I am. On this note of visibility, background, I'm trying to build a creative strategy studio. I want to take these skills and be able to practice it in a space that is for money, y'all. That's not focused on self-growth. Like this right here, I love her, I love y'all, but I don't feel like I want to force myself into thinking that this is something of expectation of money. And I will like be honest, what's really funny is I don't care about this idea of this podcast being like, oh my god, how many people listen to me? And that's why I feel so comfortable doing hiatuses, because in my head nobody's listening. Like this is my own personal project of being vulnerable, talking about my things and not really caring. And so I'm like, 20% are people actually listening? I have no idea. At this point, I'm pretending that everybody and nobody's listening, and it's really comforting because I'm like, no one can come up to me and be like, oh my god, I heard this last episode. In the beginning, it was like people were supporting me, but that's because I was very consistent. And I let myself not be consistent because I just felt like I wasn't going to be insincere. And I wasn't going to hold myself to this idea of perfection. Because usually when I do a lot of things, it's like this idea and this pressure that I have to perform more than me just being me. And because this was about healing, and it was actively during my times of healing, baby, I couldn't predict what healing looked like. I couldn't make it consistent. I couldn't make lessons pop all at the same time. Now with building, I think because I'm choosing to do things, I can just kind of choose to make this more sustainable, more consistent, which I am trying. Everything else doesn't really matter, and everything else isn't pushed to be on the same level consistency between these two things. The podcast itself, like I said, I'm not really interested in making money off of it, but I do get time to time emails being like, here's how you can optimize, here's how you can do this, and I'm like, baby, I'm not thinking about that with this. This is just me being me. I have an Instagram for the podcast that at first I used to post, and I talked maybe about this at a point. I found for myself personally that Instagram, I did not have my face on it when I did this podcast. I was just having this big fear that someone might find me, someone might see the things I do, as if they would like hold me accountable and be like, you're so weird and all these things, or oh, I know what she's talking about, she insinuates things, because I didn't want to be like very clear of things like my parents divorcing, things that happened during my hardship, or even like the fact that I'm trying to build. When I looked at the Instagram, I was able to put my face on it eventually and be like, you know what, put my name on it and not care. And try to be like, okay, maybe I can use this as a personal page. I even did like a food review on it for random. One issue I was hitting was I used to post very daily about the podcast, like pushing it. And I stopped doing that just because it was too much work making those little canvas slides. And I felt like, you know, if I wanted to really push my podcast, I should record videos. But I struggled really hard recording videos because I ramble. Y'all hear it, I hear it, and that's why I work so well in a podcast. But when it came to short form content, it was really hard for me because I do not intend to cut my thought process out. I didn't come in here with like, here's my thesis. I came in here with a general idea right now on the podcast. This is completely unscripted of what I wanted to talk about, and I just allowed myself to speak. And so likewise, it feels very difficult for me to sit on a video and do that because I feel like I have to have a strong point. No, that's not me. That's not me. And so it felt very hard to be visible using short form content and also using my face. It's not that I hate how I look. I think I'm a beautiful individual. Thank you very much. But I also know I hate staring at myself. I don't like looking at myself because I just feel like uncanny valley. I know I'm human, like, don't get me wrong, but it's just like seeing myself and watching myself for so long, it freaks me out. I used to hate Zoom meetings because I'm like, why am I on camera? Because now I'm watching myself because I don't want to look weird, and now like it's me watching myself for an hour and I am tired of it. It just feels like a lot for short form content. I'm hijabi, I gotta put a hijab on, and then I have to think about what outfit am I presenting as. I am someone who thinks a lot about presentation. If I have a conversation and I'm wearing a prayer outfit, or if I'm wearing American clothing, if I'm wearing white, blue, like all those things push towards certain ideas, especially when you're talking. And so like for me, it was like that's even more things to think about. And then it's the fact that I'm visually a hijabi, that's even more things to think about. And it felt like too much at the time. So I am saying all this about the short form content because I've been recording short form content of ideas and thoughts since July. And I have like maybe 4 or 5 videos I recorded that were fine. And one issue I have is like, it is just very difficult for me to sit in front of my camera and perform, and then as well as try to write that out or pace myself, because I don't pace myself here. I don't hold myself gun to my head and be like, you need to have this amount of time talking about this topic. Next topic, you have 2 minutes. Like, I don't do that. So if I go on a long ramble here, it's fine because I know I'll edit it. But like if I'm recording on my phone, I know like I have only a certain amount of space. Yes, unfortunately, I am that girl whose phone is always like, oh my god, you see this amazing thing you want to record? No storage. So for me, it's like, dang, I have at max like 10 minutes to talk. And I know you're like, what the hell, 10 minutes? Girl, it's a TikTok. But baby, like that's how I talk. That's how I talk. I have like 10 minutes max to talk. And then I'm like, oh my god, I have no idea where my thought is going to be. Because I might say the most smart thing like in minute 9. And like all of it before doesn't matter. And that's fine. But it doesn't work that way. And so talking about visibility and kind of reeling this back in, it just felt extremely difficult for me to record short form content because I am very particular about where am I supposed to look. I'm thinking about it while recording. I'm also trying to remember what I'm trying to say. I'm also counting the time. And then if I have like a script, I'm trying to not read the script but also remember the script without reading it and then making it sound natural. And then it's just like so taxing. I'm like, oh my god, I don't care anymore. Like, fuck it. Like, fuck the video, throw it away. I'm done with this shit. Now I'm hot because now I have to wear this like this hijab in my room right now and it's already warm. And I just get so frustrated and I like throw it away. And then I would look at it weeks later and I'd be like, man, I need storage. Delete. I'm so sick. I'll be like, I need storage, delete. And it's not honestly at this point that I don't care about that. Those visualizations of me making like good points. It's just that I came to a conclusion eventually after doing months and months of this that like, it's fine. These were practices for me to speak on camera. And I'm at this point pretty comfortable to speak on camera. Like I could do a live stream and not be terrified. I could be speaking for people and not be terrified. But when it comes to short form content, I'm just not that girl. I'm just not meant to cut my thoughts into short, easy things to remember. I probably want to record a 20-minute video and then cut one clip from it and be like, yes, these 2 minutes is my dime. This is my gold. And I just don't have the capabilities to do that right now with my phone because your girl don't got no storage. And why is this all important? I feel like building, like, you know, we're building a business. Even this podcast, I do want this to be important. I do want people to care for this hobby. I do want to reach Somali girls who identify with the things I'm saying. But I question how much uncomfortability is equal to that effort. And I eventually realized I can't take on that effort right now when it comes to my podcast. So I let it go. I was like, cool, I don't have to do that right now. I don't have to force myself to record. I don't have to make this a obligation on myself because I'm already behind with like this concept of season 2. And I would say something even crazier. I completely forgot about this until right now. My first season, episode 2, actually has a video. It has a video fully edited at that I sat and I spoke for like the hour. And it was fine. And I sat there and I edited and did all those things. I color graded it. everything. But something for me just didn't feel legitimized to me. Like when I was trying to choose a thumbnail because I was trying to make it a YouTube video, I believe. I hated it. I started to realize more and more as each step came about that it felt heavier and heavier. And then I was like, bro, I actually don't care for this. I actually am not reaching the level of perfection I want. And it's pissing me and my homegirls off. It's pissing me and my counsel in my head right now. We not fucking with this. We not doing this. And so now, why does this all matter now? Because I said these are like months. This is like, second episode was literally last year in the beginning of the year. No, it was December 2024 that I recorded this. And then now I told you, like, since maybe July, I've been recording on and off videos, and I even recorded one today. So I'm creating a business, like I said, creative strategy and thinking and all these things. And I felt like people have to be able to understand the fact that I can recognize patterns and think very deeply about these topics. Yet, there is no place to showcase this. There's no place to let my audience know, hey y'all, pay me to think for you because I think. There's no place for me to have that right now. And as I'm building up, like, you know, I'm still doing other things like building websites, identifying like structures and stuff like that for me. And I'm like sitting here and like, you know what would be good if I sat and made videos and talked about like different businesses, what they're doing right, what they're doing wrong, X, Y, and Z. And I have so many notes and ideas of like what I should be doing. But the issue is when it comes to recording again, I have no idea. And so like I'm beating myself up about like, how do I present myself? And so I'm sitting and listening to like a podcast. I'm sitting and listening to like their versions. I've been asking, how do you be visual all the time, to the fact that I've asked people who are creators. And like the point is always like, you know, tolerate uncertainty, be okay with being visible. Your fear of others judging you is bigger than this concept of failure. And I kept coming back to this and being like, do I care that people are judging me? Like visibility, once again. Is it I'm afraid of people judging me? And I kept being like, today specifically, sitting and listening to this and being like, is this about me? Because I'm not afraid of being uncomfortable. I'm not afraid of the pain of being misunderstood at this point, because I've been misunderstood well enough to not care. And so I'm sitting here and I'm listening, even though it's like uncomfortable, and it's getting to a point that I'm sitting here and I'm like, honestly, I don't know if I'm scared of being visible. I don't know what I'm struggling with. And I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about all these things I'm telling you right now, about my relationship with the recording, with how I just have always struggled to post. And I will even say like my own Instagram currently, like my own private Instagram, has either one post up from this month, and before that I had no posts for a while, and then the post before that I think was from last March, and then I might have took down the post from January already. And like once again, I went on a trip to Europe, and I didn't post about it on my own personal page. And it became this like question of, do I even give a shit other people know what I'm doing? Do I even give a shit that other people are in my life? Do these people matter to me enough that I'm presenting these things and thinking about them as I'm taking these photos, visuals, all these things? And the answer became no. I actually don't. And I would even say, like, going even more back to, like, my hardship. I remember during my hardship, I took one photo in the beginning of my hardship, and then I didn't take one for most of the hardship, because I was like, I am very unhealthy, and so I'm, like, a lot bigger. I'm not really happy with anything that's going on in my life. My skin is breaking out. I can't sit here and smile for y'all because my mental health is in the gutters. And then I realized, like, why am I even performing for others? Why is this for others? And I thought even farther back from that, when I first started Instagram, and how I was just, like, naively taking photos and posting them. And this is, like, 2020-ish. It's not even, maybe even a little before that, like 2019. It's not even like that. Mind you, I was having peers be so pretty, so, like, fashionable, so many things, and then I was like, freak man, like, someone told me like, oh, you just be posting, and I was like, oh my god, like, I'm doing this wrong, what the hell? And I deleted like all the photos, and then I learned how to take photos better. I learned how to do makeup better and all these things. And so, like, I would say, I guess my relationship, using Instagram as an example, is I understood, like, these photos are for the audience in my head. These photos are for everybody else to see that I'm enjoying. And so, like, when I took that really good photo in the beginning of my hardship, I was low-key proud because I was like, yes, you guys are gonna see that I'm alive and I'm well. Even though, like, this is, like, I'm technically, like, everyone just found out about my daddy going back home, going to Africa, and then coming back and being like, actually, I'll be with y'all, and we're playing house right now, and everyone thinks like it's this weird energy, and I'm like, yes, guys, no, everything is fine. It was just a blimp, because look how cute I look at this dinner. And then it wasn't okay. It was like a hardship, and then I couldn't take more photos. I couldn't enjoy things. And this is really crazy that I'm sitting here talking about this when I did not think this was going to be part of the topic of visibility. And so personally, in my own life, just to my own private community of people I know, I just decided it did not make sense to continuously post. And so, like, there was a point during my year of healing that I just stopped posting. And mind you, everything was going pretty well for me during my year of healing. I was traveling different places locally, and then, like, of course, abroad, alhamdulillah. I was having good friendships come out, alhamdulillah. I was enjoying my time with my family, and, like, things were settling, and I was healing, and I was doing so many cool things. And I remember, like, people really, like, being like, I don't see you anymore. What are you doing? What are you doing? And if I post, like, going out to, like, one lunch, some people would be like, oh my God, I saw you were here and this things. And I'm like, these people are not reaching out to me unless I'm posting these things, because they're so confused of why I'm not posting. They're so confused of, like, I'm being a private person, and I'm not being a private person. I just was living life so much that I didn't see the need to post. I didn't see the need to prove that I was living, in a sense. I was like, cool. I was trying so hard to prove life was okay the year before when it was not okay. And even if I wasn't posting, like, photos of myself, I was posting me enjoying things, because I was just pretending everything in the background wasn't happening. And now that I'm enjoying life, I'm not really posting anything because I don't need to validate that I'm healing. I'm, like, also internally, like, we talked about this, like, building up my identity, doing this podcast stuff. And I was like, okay, I don't want to post that. I don't want to be overzealous and be like, guys, I'm making a podcast, so listen, please listen. And we get to now. And so I just sitting now physically, I realize what my relationship with visibility and posting for my personal people that I know in my own community and friends. I realized, like, when it came to me practicing, right, post visibility and doing these things, that I was like, okay, I know how to do this way. And I'm gonna bring in another element of just, like, visibility. I also had a very visual job. I was, like, kind of the talking head of my job. I would be the most front facing. I would constantly deal with people. I'd sit and do Zoom meetings that have 1,000 people in them. I would have them also be recorded, posted online, add my face places. Sometimes I would even stand up and, like, talk in rooms and all those things. Even in those times, like, if I had the option not to speak, I would be like, cool, I don't need to speak. Not because I was like, oh, I can't speak. It was like I was also taught in this way to be humble and pass it on to everybody else, because whether that was, like, community wise, if I ever picked up an opportunity, like, you know what, I want to do it, everyone's like, well, you're already very successful, alhamdulillah, like, you don't let other people do it, you have so much potential, like, please just let other people show their potential off, let them show these things. So I would step back a lot and be like, cool, I can just do the background stuff, and, like, people can go up and get the glory and talk and all those things. And so even when work, I got to sit and do those things. I didn't even take those things seriously, because I was like, I mean, everyone acts like anyone could do this. Everyone acts like, you know, this is a very easy thing to talk in front of 1,000 people and not really care and not worry too hard. I'm doing this right now with no script. And I know I'm saying that like that's crazy, but it kind of is if you ever sat down and, like, wrote an episode and explained things. I have to physically sit here and remember what I said, at the same time keep my pace, which is not that easy if you're not thinking about things. And I'm not writing anything down. I have a notebook in front of me. I wish I was actually being smart and, like, writing points down so I'll remember them, but I'm not. But I was never afraid of being visible for other institutions. I'm well spoken when it also comes to presentations. I've done so many presentations academically, and I tend to be the person that they're like, hey, can you do the group talk for the class? And I'll do it, and people be like, oh my god, you came up with all this, and I'm like, no, like, I'm just able to really articulate what other people are thinking. And I would bring this back a layer even more. So I could professionally talk. I also knew that I was very understanding of why you could show up. Like talking, I love talking to people. I love being in crowds and having conversations, even though I enjoy being by myself. But like when I'm in public, I can chat and have a good time and all those things. And I also was like a class clown, so I would just act a fool in community settings because I thought it was funny. But as I gotten older, as I'm sitting here now and thinking about like recording and talking about things, whether that's this podcast and talking about like thoughts, I feel like I'm at a slower pace and I don't want to condense myself into like 2 seconds and be like, boom. And I sat and I studied. The other thing I did, having all these things behind me, I sat and studied and watched and wrote notes. I would literally sit down with certain TikTokers, Instagrammers. I would sit down with those videos and I would take notes. I would write their entire script out. I would show where the cadence is, where the stopping points is, where like, and I'm not saying I just watch videos where people are like, this is how you have a hook. I was like, no, babes, I am dissecting and watching these popular videos and I'm pointing out where the points are. I'm figuring out how people do things. And to this point, I think I can direct somebody very well how to execute those videos if I wanted to. I just think for me, my brain kind of explodes because I'm like, when I get in front of the camera, I'm like, oh my God, we could like clip the worst part and it could just loop in my head. You don't even gotta clip it. I'm clipping it in my head and just looping it. And so I was asking myself, it's like, am I scared of visibility? Because clearly I'm thinking like when I mess up, I'm remembering it over and over and over. But when it came to like going on stage or having YouTube videos, I would just be like, cool, even this, I will sit and make so many mistakes while recording. I'm getting better now, especially if I'm reading a script. I make so many mistakes. I would have to go back and like delete things. Sometimes I'll delete entire sections. Sometimes I will record an entire podcast and then it never comes out. And so I would make mistakes all the time, but I would be able to adjust, fix, edit. I know I am some type of perfectionist, but I'm generally someone just who has a certain standard that I like to meet. And if it doesn't meet that standard, I'm okay with trying again and trying to meet that standard. I'm okay with recording video after video for months until I get to a standard I like and posting those videos. Like that's how my mindset is. I know people might say like, well, you could have been famous 6 months ago if you posted those videos then and there. And it's like, that's just not who I am. I just cannot do that. I have to feel comfortable with what I make. And that brings up the podcast, for example. There are plenty of episodes I've posted that I don't think are high quality. I don't think they match my ideal episodes. I don't think they're my best thing yet. Yet they come out. And I kept sitting here and asking myself, right, with the visibility thing, because I want to create short form content for my business, not necessarily for the podcast right now. Maybe not. Maybe, but maybe not. I kept saying, you know what, give up on the podcast because it's too much work to take all that thought process and condense it into 2 minutes and act like I'm cool with that, because I'm not. So I'm just going to focus on like business. And with the business, I sat here and said like, okay, here's a bunch of scripts. I script wrote, I recorded, I have done everything you can imagine. I've like practiced, recorded it, and then sat here and say like, no, this is not me. This is not my standard. And I kept being like, bro, if I'm gonna build, everybody in the world is telling me just to be visible. Just do it, just do it, just do it. And I'm like getting mad because I'm like, how is it that I'm recording videos for this ideal of the work? How is it that I'm willing to pay people to edit for me? I'm willing to pay people to record for me. I'm willing to do whatever, X, Y, and Z. Yet I am still not seeing what I like. I'm still like writing scripts and I'm like, these scripts are not good enough to then hire a videographer and get this done. I don't agree with myself. And I'm like, am I such a high critic? And I come back and I think about this podcast and I'm like, no, because I can post this podcast very easily. I can have episodes that don't pan out, but it's because I realized like halfway through editing and saying, you know what? Actually, no, this episode comes from resentment. This is not what I think it is. This episode comes from misunderstanding of what I actually want. so I'm not gonna record this. Or as I'm talking halfway through the thing, I'm like, what the hell am I saying? What am I saying? This is not true. This sounds so disingenuous. And I have to pause and I'll be like, you know what? Hold yourself accountable, baby. I know you just spent like 2 hours writing the script, 2 hours recording, but no. And so like, for example, with the hiatus, I wrote a hiatus episode 4 times, recorded 4 times, and each one, I did not like it. Sometimes I was like, this is blaming other people. Sometimes I'm like, this is resentment. And it wasn't as if during the hiatus, I was like, I don't give a shit about this podcast. I'm gonna just hang out, da da da. It was like, no, this is physically so hard for me to sit here and tell y'all why. And when I recorded and did that video, I love the boat. I love it. I think I did a good job. I really do appreciate it. But there are thousands of prototypes that die in order for that version to live. And that's just who I am. And so I've been sitting here for like a week, kind of like almost stuck and not forcing myself to think about that. 6 months of thinking about content and recording content, doing content. And like I made a food review video just because I wanted to see, was it that I am not comfortable with posting content, which that is not true. Because I question if like maybe I'm okay with legitimized institutions and having the ability to do it. So like I'm okay for doing it, for working for others, but maybe I don't have confidence in myself. And I'm like, no, that's not true, because I did a food review video and I could continuously make food review videos. But I also knew I was doing a bit of a performance when I was reviewing it. I knew I was very particular about what things I said, how I did things, how I recorded, and I think it really mirrored like the issue that I'm having with like recording for my brand, because I'm like, oh, I don't know if I like this angle. I always ask myself, what's the purpose? Why am I doing things? I don't do things just because. There's very few things in my life that I just do without thinking about it. And it just became kind of like difficult. Like no matter what, I sit here and be like, cool. Like you could sit and tell me record this and record that. But I generally have to think about it. What are you going to do? And I think like my simple answer is, I don't know why I particularly don't want or have not found the way I want to do social media. And I'm okay with it. I'm still exploring, but I'm not going to post myself in ways that don't align with me until I find something that kind of aligns with me. And I'm okay with that. Okay with that for now. It's very stressful. I'm still gonna play in my head every single day, like the whole concept of social media, how to do it, X, Y, and Z. But when it comes to building a business and visibility, and I know I focus a lot on like social media, but we did talk about other ways I've been visible. I don't think I have an issue with visibility. I said it out loud right now, like, yo, I'm building a business. And I explained it, and I'm not afraid to do that. And I think I've past that mark of being visible. And I know as a person, I'm a metabolizer. I love to sit here and learn a bunch, internalize it, play with it, but eventually it does have to show up. It does have to be embodied. We talked about this so many times about like, you know, concept. I'll keep beating into y'all, you know, the art of thinking and building the identity, and then the identity eventually has to be embodied and shown in ways. And so I have been thinking, trying to metabolize that hard pill to swallow of how do I be visible? Am I bad at it? And I've been sitting specifically today to be like, okay, I'll hold myself accountable. So I don't have the answer right now, and I'm telling y'all this. So yeah, yay! Because like what I've talked through almost every single conclusion and thought process. Yeah, and I don't think I'm scared of tolerating like discomfort. Like I live in discomfort. I still trust my process, and I'm still gonna do things that make me uncomfortable. And like talking about this was kind of uncomfortable, but even first recognizing this and sitting down and forcing myself to like ask myself the question of, am I afraid of being visible? And I don't think that's my answer, but I don't want to stand in front of a camera, in front of a mic, when I don't know what my point is. It's not for the weak. It is not for the weak to embody. But I believe in all of us, and like you just gotta take it one step at a time. And it's okay if you're not the type to just go in and just be a go-getter, because some of us aren't.